So you've been thinking about moving to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and you've decided that it's time to start your home search process and make your dreams of living at the beach a reality. That's great, but before you get the ball rolling, I want to share with you 5 common mistakes that I see people make that can not only slow down the process of moving to the beach, but could also potentially cause your deal to completely fall through once you find your dream home. And be sure to stick around until the end of this video because I'm going to share with you a bonus mistake that I see some people make after closing and moving into their home that actually costs them thousands of dollars per year in taxes. Hey, welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Nick, and on this channel I talk about things to do here in Myrtle Beach. I give tips and advice about the area, and I'm a real estate agent, so of course I talk about the real estate. So if you are thinking about relocating to the area, then be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and tap the little notification bell while you're at it. This way you could be the first to know about what's going on here in Myrtle Beach. Now, today's topic is pretty important because I've seen many people make these mistakes over the years, and it causes a lot of extra stress in their moving process. It causes them extra time, it causes them extra money, and in some cases it causes them to lose out on buying their dream home here in Myrtle Beach. The good news is that each and every one of these mistakes is easily avoidable, and after watching this video, you will have the knowledge to avoid them yourself, and you'll be living at the beach in no time. Okay, the first mistake that I see people make is they rush the process. Now, this is going to be more important to some than to others. Me, for example, I know that I tend to overanalyze certain things, and for me, I need a little bit more time to make big decisions. Not everyone is going to need 6 months or a year or even more and multiple trips to the area to decide exactly where they want to live here in Myrtle Beach. But if you're that person, you probably already know it, so just make sure you plan accordingly. And here's the thing, if you're watching this video right now, you're probably already taking the right steps. But starting to plan early will allow you to take trips to the area that are designated to your home search and figuring out exactly where you want to live and what to expect from the area. If you can narrow things down early on, that will ensure that when you're ready to buy, you can come down on a trip and only focus on homes that are in the specific town or even the specific community that you've decided you want to live in. That will make your life a lot less stressful than trying to explore the entire Grand Strand over a 2-day trip to the area where you were planning to buy a home. Now, that last scenario is not impossible. I've helped a lot of people explore the entire Grand Strand and purchase a home all in a short trip, but again, the goal is to make the process as smooth as possible. And something else that makes the process as smooth as possible is hitting that like button down below. The next mistake that I see a lot of people make is ruling out specific homes simply based on the photos or the 2D floor plans that they found online. I've seen time and time again 2 different situations. The first is that I see people absolutely fall in love with a home based on the photos or the 2D floor plans, and then we actually go and see it in person. They absolutely hate it, or they realize it's not going to work for them and their family. And the second is exactly the opposite, and it's that people rule out a specific floor plan that might actually work for their family. We end up going to see it in person anyways, and it turns out to be exactly what they are looking for. Now, starting your home search online and using the photos and using the floor plans and using the listing information is definitely important, and it's totally not feasible to see every single home in person that is in your price point. But it's also important to keep your mind open. Something that helps with this a lot is a video, which is why I do what I do, as I believe it is a more valuable tool for narrowing down your options. And something else that I see very often regarding this is ruling out a home based on its square footage that you see online, oftentimes because you think it might be too small. Now, yes, everybody does have different size requirements, but something to consider is an 1,800 square foot home that has an open layout can oftentimes feel as big, if not bigger, than a 2,200 square foot home that is closed off and spread across 2 different floors. So again, just something to keep in mind. So the first two mistakes are mistakes that could slow down your search process and delay your plans of moving to the beach, but this next mistake is one that could really slow down the escrow process once you've actually found the home you want to buy, and could even cause the deal to fall through, and that is using non-local professionals. I get it, your mortgage lender from your home state is licensed in South Carolina. You know them, you trust them, and they promise they can get the deal done for you. And in many cases they can. But the problem is they're often not familiar with the process of buying a home here in South Carolina, and I've seen that cause my clients time, money, and in some cases to lose out on the home they fell in love with. A common issue, for example, is that in some other states like New Jersey or New York, their purchase agreements allow for something like a 30-day swing in either direction for the closing date. And because of this, lenders are used to working on their own timelines versus the timelines of the contract because they are used to dictating when the closing will happen. Here in South Carolina, that is not the case. Our closing dates are firm, there's no buffer built into our contracts, and if the closing date is missed, then all parties have to agree to amend the contract in order to move forward, but they're not obligated to. Now, out-of-state lenders are not the only reason why delays happen, and sometimes things happen that are completely out of our hands, and most of the time sellers are understanding and willing to work with the buyer. But I've seen before where they might demand more money in order to agree to the extension, or in some cases they take things personally and completely cancel the deal. I believe that using local and reputable professionals can not only help to avoid delays, but can also minimize the consequences if they do happen, because if they are good, they've likely worked with the agent on the other side of the deal before, or they at least know of each other. And those business relationships are important because if the listing agent knows that the lender is good at their job and they're known for getting deals closed, then they might be more understanding when an issue comes up that causes a delay, and they'll relay that information to the seller. The same is going to go for insurance agents, closing attorneys, and anybody else that's involved in the process. The right team can really make a difference in your overall experience. This next one's really important if you're planning to get a mortgage to buy a home, and that is making large purchases while you are under contract to buy that home. The general rule of thumb is to not apply for any new credit, do not finance any large purchases, and do not spend the money that is needed for your down payment and closing costs. It is always a good idea to talk with your lender before making any purchases outside of your normal everyday expenses when you're buying a home. Any little mistake could cause your financing to fall through and your plans of living at the beach to be delayed. You hear a lot about young people who either just got a new job out of college or they just got a raise, so they go out and buy a home, and while they're in the process, they also go out and buy a new car. And though this can be extremely detrimental, it's not something that I see often here in Myrtle Beach. More often, it's the case that somebody's down here to buy a home. We get their home under contract, they get excited. The next day, they have some extra time and they want to go furniture and appliance shopping, and they get lured in by that 0% financing. In many cases, those charges and extra payments can cause issues with your financing. So again, if you want to do this, just make sure you speak with your lender before doing so, and when in doubt, just wait until the deal is closed to go out and buy that new furniture. Okay, the last mistake before the bonus mistake is rare, but when it does happen, it is an extremely awful experience, and that is expecting to move into your home the same day you sign the closing documents. Here in South Carolina, the deal is not considered closed until the deed is fully recorded at the courthouse, which in some cases might not happen until the next business day. Now, thankfully, this next situation has not happened to any of my clients personally, but I've heard stories where somebody will sign closing documents midday on Friday. A few hours later, they have a moving truck show up to their new home, but the deed does not record because the courthouse is backed up and money cannot be dispersed to the seller, so they do not agree to release the keys until Monday when the deed records. And to top it all off, it is peak tourist season and last-minute hotel prices are through the roof. Now, I don't like to schedule closings on Friday because of this situation, so worst case scenario, you will get the keys the next day, but sometimes things happen. Now, we do have something that's called a table funding, and this happens a lot, which allows the money to be dispersed and the keys to be released as soon as all parties sign the documents, but all parties do need to agree to this, including the closing attorneys and the lender. Even if table funding is agreed to, there might be situations where the closing can get delayed by a day even after all the documents are signed because either the seller or you yourself are out of town and the mail away documents get delayed. It's usually a good idea to give yourself at least a day or two buffer before expecting to move into your new home. Then worst case scenario is that you spent an extra $200 on a hotel room that you didn't totally need, but that's better than not having anywhere to go. And even then, that might not be a bad thing because at least you have a bed to sleep in versus unloading your truck on the day you closed on your home late in the evening and then realizing you forgot to pack the box that has all the tools that you need to put your bed together. And as promised, the bonus mistake that I've seen some people make after closing that cost them thousands of dollars is not applying for their primary residence tax exemption. A lot of people decide to move here because of the extremely affordable property taxes, and that could very well be the same reason why you're deciding to move here as well, but if you don't do things correctly, you could miss out on those savings. Here in our area, we have two different tax rates depending on whether or not the home is your primary residence. The taxes that you're going to pay on a second home or an investment property are going to be about 3 times higher than what you would pay on a primary residence, and that can equate to thousands of dollars per year. Unfortunately, your property taxes will default to the higher rate when you first buy your new home here in Myrtle Beach, and you will need to take the steps to apply for the exemption. Those steps include every single person on the deed having their driver's license and car registration transferred to the new address before filling out the application. Now, this is super easy to do and it should not be something to stress about, but I get it. When you're moving, there's a lot going on and it can be easily overlooked. And those are going to be the top mistakes to avoid when making your move here to the beach. I don't think any of these items should cause too much stress because they're easy to avoid, especially now that you know about them. If you found this video helpful in any way, I'd appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button down below. And if you're ready to find your home here at the beach, then I would love to chat with you. You can always use the first link down in the description to schedule a call with me. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. I want to thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.